Good night, everyone. Doing tonight. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Abram, Spiritual Divine. I'm here to give you a little short news and a word on tonight. Oh, I'm sitting bending my back. Now, we got some black owners now having a crisis in the cereal brand. Now, Snoop Dogg and Master P, cereal lawsuit. Now, the crisis black owner business can use the brand. Now, they are talking about, the retail giant Walmart, Walmart stores. The food allegedly keeping the cereals off the shelf. So now the attorney is Crump, Ben Crump. Now he's real good. He take honors on a lot of black lawyers. Now, um, now the business it was at Walmart. Now the customer was calling them, saying, "Well, I don't see your cereals, in Walmart." And I used to say the same thing too. I was like, I'm looking for their cereal soon, and no wonder it wasn't in the stores. So the black owners they just don't want to be just no rapper. They want to be known as a business owner. So the customer was not seeing the cereals on the shelf. They had to look at the situation itself and see why the cereal wasn't on the shelf. And when they found the cereal, and they had to ask the question why it's not cereals. They're not cereals. It's not on the shelf. So when anybody have their brand in somebody's store, you know they want their brand on the shelf. It's not gonna do good for them to have it in the back nowhere. Their brand have to be on the store, so it can be well known, so they can sell, and everybody can see their brand. Everybody was saying, "What are your cereals?" You know, um, these and not only just celebrities, that for anybody who have their brand in a store and you don't see it in the store. So they don't want this to be no rapper, and they don't want them to just look at them a rapper and don't give them no respect. You know, so they want respect. They want their brand on the shelf. So they want respect as a business owner. So that's the story on Snoop and Master P. Dealing with this cereals. They want to have respect on their business, knowing that they're business owners. They're not just rappers. They're known as business owner. So we still dealing with this um border. So the pathway to citizenship. Mr. President Joe Biden, he has sent a bill, immigrants, that could have pathway to citizenship, for all the estimate, 11 million immigrant, 11 million immigrant, so he came up with this bill, because he want to make sure that all is legal, coming across the border, having their citizenship, so he was prepared to shut down the border if it was necessary. If the border is need to be shut down, our amount of people that's at the border, it will be shut down temporarily. So we see Mr. President, had created a pathway, for the legal immigrant, for all American people, to have the border secure. They wants to have the border secure, and a pathway to citizenship, making sure to have legal pathway. So That's all the news on that. And I have a word for you. God called Abraham. And it's gonna be an amazing call. You know, God called Abraham. You're gonna come from Genesis chapter 12, 1 through 9. Now, the Lord has said to Abraham, you know, from your country, your people, your father, your household, to the land I show you to. Now, see, when God called you, He gonna call you to tell you leave your house, leave your not only your house, leave your country. You know, and I need you to come, you know, to this country here, you know, where there will where I'm gonna show you another land for your ancestors. You know, so when God had called him, Abraham moved out in faith, you know, from her Haran and finally to Canaan. Now see, Abraham didn't ask no question. You know, he moved out on faith. You know, God had called him and he asked no question. He's like, okay, you know, he didn't have no children, so he took his wife and he took Lot and he took some people from his household, you know, from his neighborhood, you know. So they said the people they took out, they took off, and and he went out on faith, you know. Not supposed to someone tell you, you know, God said, come on, I need you to come, you know. Will you pack up? Will you pack up? Yeah, yeah. You will pack up because Abraham's life is about to change, you know. So I will make you into a great nation, you know, and I will bless you and I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. You know, that remember what he told that to David. He said David was one of them, you know, you know, nobody don't know me, you know. And God said, don't worry about that. I'm gonna make your name great. You know, so Abraham did the right thing by moving. You know, because when he moved, you know, God said, I'm gonna make you a great nation. You know, his children is the one gonna be a nation. You know, he said, I'm gonna make your name great and you will be a blessing. Now, not only he gonna be blessed, he will be a blessing. You know, so when God then established a covenant with Abraham, telling him that he will be found a great nation, and not only would this nation be blessed, you know, but God said, but the other nation of the earth will be blessed. Now, God had just said Abraham gonna be blessed. He said he gonna be blessed. Everybody on the earth was gonna be blessed. You know, so he did by right to just pack up his stuff and just leave home. You know, he ain't asked no question at all. You know, because his father was wicked. And most of the people, his brothers and all that, you know. See, God already know what people to go with you, you know. So that's why the brother didn't go, the daddy didn't go, you know. But he took his nephew Lot because his daddy died once you know was his brother, and so God established a covenant. See, when he get there, you know, he gonna establish a covenant with him. You know, telling him all these great things, you know, telling him that he will be a great nation. And you know, he had Isaac. Isaac had Jacob, the two twins. You know, Jacob, the one had the children. They're gonna be the one. It's the nation. You know, we didn't hear too much about Esau, but we heard a lot about Jacob. You know, this nation is blessed. Jacob family is the one gonna multiply, you know, to be a nation. Cause you remember, they were twins. God said both of y'all gonna be a two separate nation. Now, Esau had a nation for a while. He went his separate way and had his little nation, the Ammonites. That's Esau. And then Jacob, he didn't last out loud. He didn't last, but his children was a nation. So nation, so God said, but the other nation on the earth, the other nation that's on the earth would be blessed through Abraham, offspring. He gonna be gone, but things still gonna be happening. God gonna see when God keep His word before and after. You know, and so and so God said, "I will bless you. Those who bless you, whoever curse you, I will curse them. And whoever people on earth will be blessed through you." Now, God said, whoever around you is blessed. And God said, whoever curse you is blessed. I mean, whoever curse you, He gonna curse them. So they don't want to mess with Abraham. And the people on earth will be blessed through Abraham. Now, this blessing meant learning his home and friends and traveling, and to a new land where God promised to build a great nation from Abraham's family. And God given a promise of even greater blessing in the future. So his offspring, that's why the Israelite got everything, and God loved them because He loved the Abraham. He loved the Abraham. And He promised all these blessings to them. And what He promised this to Abraham, and Abraham to Paul, He still said your ancestors, your offspring, they're going to get this blessing. So Abraham went as the Lord had told him. And Lot went with him. Abraham was 75 years old when he set from Haran. Now, Abraham is already 75 years old. So that's why He gonna come with Moses, to lead the people. Because Abraham had got too old. Abraham 75 years old when He called Abraham. So Abraham, He told Abraham had brought his wife, and he brought Lot, and he was 75 years old. Now, what I read on Sarah is like kin to him. Like I think one of his dead brothers or something, white. Well, I have to look back into that again. So Abraham obeyed God, and when now he was 75 years old, Abraham gone from old life to new life. Now, just because he's 75 years old, he's still going to have a little fun before he depart. Because he depart was like 100-something years old. So he still had a little time, he from old life to new life, to receive an imaginable blessing, from God. So that's something. God called you from your hometown and tell you to come to another town, and you're gonna get this marvelous blessing, that you ain't never heard before. It's just amazing. So he took his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, in the possession and he cupulated in the people that had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan and arrived there. So now you notice even the neighbors came. And you also notice that his daddy didn't come. And you notice his daddy didn't come. Cause God know who He wanted um in Abraham's circle. So God had planned to develop, a nation of people, that He would call His own. Now, the land of Canaan, was the focal point for what much the history of Israel. So there was gonna be history. There was history. So this is what he telling Abraham. He telling Abraham all this good news, a blessing and everything, and he telling that your ancestors. I mean, they said your ancestors, your deceit. So they're gonna be history. He said they're gonna be history. He planted this develop a nation, of people that will call his own. The land of Canaan was the facial point for most of the history of Israel. So Abraham traveled, through the land as far as the site of the great uh, tree. They had good trees up in there. When they went to possess that land, God said, make sure you don't tear down the trees. You know. So at the time of Canaan, he was in the land. Abraham believed God and went. He entered the land of Canaan, which would become the promised land. So he entered he entered the land which gonna be the promised land for his offspring. So he will travel across it and perhaps walking along the shore of the sea, Galilee, in his way to a town called Shammah. So now, this here gonna be the land for his offspring. He just don't know. The trees gonna be good in the land. The land gonna be with milk and honey, and it just gonna be filled with all kinds of stuff. And that's somehow he in the promised land. But it's gonna take forever for them to get to the promised land. His offspring. And the Lord appeared to Abraham and said to your offspring, I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Now you will do the same thing too. God doing all this here stuff. So now he wanna build an altar, represent God. So this altar symbolize, communion with God and community with God and attain encounter with Him. Now, this what this altar gonna be symbolizing. He wanted to do it to symbolize, represent it to God. God that He had encounter with Him. And God had give him all this blessing and stuff. And when he look at that, it gonna remind him, of all the things that God did. So Abraham regular built an altar to God for two reasons. Building an altar help him remember that God was at the center of his life. And remember, he left the old life, and he entered the new life. And he said God was in the center of his life. Made a new life for him. Made a new life for him. And he said when he look at this altar, it's gonna be a remember of God. From From there he went on towards the hill and east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and on the east. There was he built an altar, and the Lord called the name of the Lord. That was a good thing that he did. Because God had given him all kind of blessings. This was due to his plan, to God's plan. Because somebody, the Bible saying, well, why God had called Abraham, just to give him all this blessing. Okay, all this blessing, you know, it's a part of God's plan. So Abraham, you remember Abraham came in after the flood. Noah the children, one of the children, that's Abraham's dad. So that's why when when Noah and his children was on the boat, all the people got killed. You know, everybody took under the flood except Noah family. He told them to go out there and multiply. And Moses, it said, Abraham is one of the ancestors, one of the offspring. Abraham and his people settled there for some time, and Abraham built an altar after the Lord and called on the name of the Lord here and make Abraham begin to participate in a regular form of worship of God in this place. Now he worshipped. He built that altar. He worshiped it. He worshiped that altar. And he prayed in that altar. He do everything in that altar, and they remind him of God, the goodness of God that He did for him. He called him out of that land, out of his country, and brought him into a new land. And he already was 75 years old. you know. And so he ain't had, he ain't did too much work, and he was getting old, But he lived into 100 and some years old, and Sarah was 90 something, So he, whatever he didn't do, his offspring, he's picking it up. So that's why time he had died, Moses came along, you know, and so, Abraham had his people to settle there, and sometime Abraham built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord there. And so Abraham had begun to participate in the worship in the altar he had built. And so that was a blessing to give back. Someone call you out of your country and tell you move into another country. Look, you're gonna be blessed. You're gonna be a blessing. Everybody on the earth gonna be blessed. You know, and imagine somebody telling that to you. And Abraham, and good thing he ain't say no. When God said say move, he was like, oh, okay. you know. And so then Abraham had set out and continued to go towards the river. So Canaan is big. He just walking around. He in the lake here. And so you can't just walk around. You would need your donkey or whatever. You can walk. It's gonna take you days just to get to the other end. So Abraham had now journeyed across much of the land. It's possible, he just checking out the land, and which God had promised to his offspring. So God would promise to do great things for Abraham. God called Abraham to leave his people and land, country, leave it behind. Don't look back. He said a promise to bless Abraham. Remember, God made a covenant with Abraham. So all these things God saying to him, you know, God is speaking to him, and He made a covenant with him, and it will come true. And so He make His decision in a great nation, and who will one day occupy the land of Canaan. That's God's plan. God had a plan, and God wanted the plan to start. He noticed Abraham. Now his father was wicked. His father couldn't come. But he noticed Abraham was a righteous man. That's why I said, even though nobody don't see you, still do a good job, because God see you. God see you. So, God noticed Abraham was a good, righteous man. Even though sometimes you can have parents wicked, but that don't mean you're gonna be wicked. You know, God saw on his daddy, but then God saw on Abraham. God saw that he can make Abraham out of his righteous man, and in his children. And Abraham, he said they were going to be a mother of the nation and stuff. And 20 years had passed, they ain't never had no children. You know, God had did that on purpose. He wanted her to get old so God can show the miracles to him and let them know that is a God. That God can work in you when you're old, and produce, that baby for you that she wanted, you know. And so that that was the call of Abraham. That was the call to Abraham. So ready to get his plan started. But Abraham was already 75 years old. He couldn't go no more there. So that's when God had to come with Moses, you know, uh, with Moses. And had to get that started, But Abraham started it out because Abraham had that baby, Isaac. Isaac had Jacob. Jacob had his children that was the Israelite, you know. And so uh, Abraham, his son Isaac was a baby child, was a blessed child, the chosen child, you know, and Sarah. Sarah had took matters in her own hands. If she waited so long till she had the same girl to be with Abraham, and God said no, you gonna have that golden, you gonna have that chosen child. You gonna have your own chosen child. And so that's when he had Isaac. She had Isaac. Isaac had that golden chosen child too. And then Abraham loved it on Esau so much, but Jacob was the golden child. You know, Jacob was the golden child. So he wanted to get a blessing to Esau, but Jacob took it. It was meant for Jacob to take it. You know, it was meant for Jacob to take it. Because Jacob was the one who gonna get God's plan started. With his family. So that's all I have on there. And we are talking about Master P and Snoop Dogg's cereal. Their brand. You want your brand on the shelf. You don't want your brand hiding nowhere because you need people to see it, and you need to sell. you know. So they're looking into that, and having a lawsuit on their cereal, why it was not on the shelf. Why it's not in the front page, on the shelf, why. And so we still talk about this pathway. Now Mr. President Bennett had came up with a pathway of citizenship to make sure that it's legal, come through legal. And he made sure all the area or the border is secure, you know. And so that's all for that. Make sure that the border is secure, and have the pathway to citizenship. Make sure they all legal. So that's all I have for you today. Y'all have a blessed and safe day, and I'll see y'all in the next video.